Hello everyone, my name is Namara Alan and welcome to Naditech Studio. So previously we did a video showing you how to make this design elevation in Photoshop. And I sat back and started to think, could Archicad really also get similar results? And man, after I find out how far Archicad can push us, I was mind blown, like, so if you are pumped up for this video like me, be sure to hit that like button and also the red button, which is the subscribe. And by the way, it is for free. You can destroy it until it is grayed out at absolutely $0. And let's get started with this video. So this is no clickbait. As you can see, if I select any of these elements, you can see that this is actually a few, only that it is different now. It's an image fill, which we are going to learn how to make an image fill for these ones. And look at this glass, So cool, right? You can even see someone through there, the things that we did in Photoshop. Let's start from scratch. One is that you want to create an elevation. So the elevation can be created from the document section. So let's grab an elevation. We go to settings by Ctrl+T. And so for now in the elevation, let's just change the marker to this option 4. And what I already have an S for the south elevation. Let me make it F for front elevation. Let's say okay, and then we place this elevation. So I need it almost in the place where I have used this previous one, which you are seeing. So this one is going to be just about there, because I need it to be after this canopy, which is in this 3D, just this canopy which is propping out. So I need this to be here, F elevation, front elevation, and it needs to cover just about enough such that we can reveal almost everything else. All right, so let's go into the elevation by right clicking and going to open elevation in new tab. And this is what we have here. Not exciting, but we can do something about it. We go to this tab right here, right click and go to elevation settings. So in the settings, we can tweak a few things in the model display tab. So in the model display tab, check this cut elements, which is these elements that have been cut by the elevation, the base mesh, and we can make it absolutely black because yeah, it's in the foreground. So let's cut through it, make everything black. So for this uncut surface, you want to choose on surface non-shaded, which will enable us, if you scroll down, to go to the shadows and be able to manipulate them. So I like something lighter, about 25%, but of a darker pen. So 25% of this black pen here, 0.103, should look good for this particular elevation. So the other things is, for example, this transparency. Yeah, I think there's so many things that are being shown through the glass. I don't need them now. Yeah, I will uncheck that in order to hide them. Let's say okay for now, and this is what we have. And otherwise, before we go, I think these are too many pens, so we can go back in the settings and let's use a uniform pen for the settings. If you want more control, you can leave the pens unchecked, but I will make them uniform such that it's just black. So now we have a good clean elevation to work with, and now it's time to add in the textures. So how do we add in textures? So the things which show up in the elevation are found here in options, element attributes, and surfaces. So the color which we are seeing for this, for the concrete 04 is this one right here, and if I tweak it, it will show the changes in this elevation. So for example, let's get this paint light gray and play with it a bit. So if I make it like a bit darker and I say okay, you can see how this becomes a bit darker. But the problem we have is that in that space, we cannot add in the textures which you have seen in the... So if we go back to options, element attributes, surfaces, we can tweak the color. Let me take it a little bit back to where it was. We can tweak the color, but we don't have any option to add in the textures. And I'm like, Graphisoft, why? Please add the textures tab here so we can put them there. Anyway, we say okay, and I found a way of working with it. So all we have to do is to take these things to the ground floor, and of course the problem is whenever we copy anything from this area here, we will not be able to update any changes we make in the floor plan. So you kind of gain some things but at a cost. So let's copy by Ctrl C, and then we go to the ground floor. Let me put it just beneath this thing which I already did, and Ctrl V to paste it. So I'll center it right there. So this is what we have, which is kind of similar to where I started from to create this. So let me position it correctly. So this is what we have. It's a pretty good one, and if you're okay, you actually can use this one. But you know, sometimes we get tired of things and we want something a little bit better. So how do we add an image texture in these fields? Because now they become independent fields. If yours is grouped, check that such that you can be able to affect every field differently, this shadow and the texture itself. Let's jump into importing texture. So we go to options, element attributes, and then we go to fields. And here is where we put in, you can see that this is the recent one I just created. So let's add a new one. So it needs to be an image field. So we put in the name. Let me call this one, because I'm going to put it on the stone cladding. I'll call it stone cladding face. Yeah, because I already have stone cladding. And I say, okay, so that's it created. So when you come down here, you can see where you can browse for a new texture. So let's browse for it from our PC. So this is the libraries manager where it is going to be loaded. So you click on add in order to add it, and it's taking me exactly where my textures are. If yours opens up, you will have to look for it, whether you have it on the desktop or anywhere else in your computer. So let's choose this stone cladding and we say okay. And here it is. So it is loaded. So let's say okay, and it's been placed. So when we look at this now, it's time for us to be mathematicians, because if you look at this, this is about 360 millimeters. That's almost like 1 foot, and they are saying that all these blocks are going to be in 1 foot. No, not really. So we need to calculate how much this is, and I don't trust my off-brain mathematics. Let me get a calculator right here. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. So the fourth one goes out and shows up here. So 4 blocks. I'm gonna make mine about 250 millimeter thick. So that means it's 1 meter, and there's a spacing in between them. So the spacing, I'm going to give it like 150. Yeah, 150. I multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, which is 4 here, and I get 600. So when I add the 2, I have 1.6. So probably from here up to here, it should be about 1.6 as opposed to this 300 something. 1.6. So that should be about the scale that I desire to have. You can put in the scale that you like. So I will say okay. So now that is created. So now watch this fun part. So select this material fill, yes, fill, and then we go to the part here and we are going to place it, and our stone cladding face doesn't appear. Well, it doesn't appear because we did not save it as a cover fill. We saved it as a drafting fill. So let's go back there and I show you. We go to options, element attributes, and fills. You need to make sure that this cladding face that we have made, you check also cover fill, such that it will appear and we say okay. So now when we select this fill and go here in image, you can see that we have the stone cladding face. And look at that, look at this, because we have this shadow that is on top of this image fill. Isn't that cool? Like, yeah, that's the gist of the tutorial. Yeah, but you know, we have some issues. Don't leave just yet. So we have, you can go ahead and put in these things, which is stone cladding face, and I'll leave that for you. So let's go on some more challenging stuff, which is glass. So how do we deal with glass? Also, you can just put in like the foreground color and choose the color. Like we did in Photoshop, you just put in a black color. So for all the fields which are here, you can either put in a color or an image texture. But if you want to do exactly what I have done somewhere like here, because here this is like an illusion of the depth of the glass, but also the reflection from the things which are in front of the glass actually. So if you want to do that particularly, we could actually first load in the background, because what I did is a trick sort of. So we need to add in the background. So go to the project folder, which I have attached in the description below. Get to the background, and I have these textures for you. One of them is this blue sky contextual background. So the blue sky, all you have to do is drag and drop it in and position it correctly. Let me Ctrl K to resize such that it takes up just the area where the photo should be. So you can see this one was a little bit bigger, so we can make it big as well by Ctrl K and resize it to the sort of area, and then it would need us to increase this fill to that area. So great, we can position it correctly. So the trick that I did is to grab the material where I want to put the glass and to use a percentage fill, and then in the background, because this is the hatch, which is the foreground, and then this is the background I made it transparent. And when I do that, you can see that you can be able to see the sky behind. So if I move this, you can see that you can see it through, right? Which is pretty cool. So let's have this, but then the one on top you can tweak to your liking, whether you make it darker such that, you know, it disguises that. Like I said, you just select, go to where we have foreground, choose a percentage that you like to see of the sky behind or something, and then you can on the foreground put the percentage for the pen that is going to show, and then in the background you put in the transparent, and you can be able to see through, which I think is cool. So you can always go in and tweak, maybe 50%, yeah, tries to hide such that it is not obvious that we are seeing the background both on top and underneath. So that's essentially what I did. So from the assets folder, I also have this ground level thing. All you have to do is to just drag and drop it in, position it, and Ctrl K to resize such that you can place it precisely where you need it, and there you have it. Pretty cool, and it's behind everything else. And you can continue to tweak the glass. Let's do just these three. You go here in the fill, make it a percentage that you like, and change the foreground to the pen that you want to see, and also change the background to the transparent, and you can be able to see through. And also what that means is that if I put vegetation in the background, for example in the assets folder, I added this vegetation, which is a PNG, and by the way, Archicad tries to do a good job, although not the best hub with the PNG. So if we check transparency up here, you can see that it has done away with the background. Not so clean, as you can see these fringe edges, but you know, it's what you get with this kind of stuff. But let's scale it up maybe a bit further, such that from here up to here we can scale it up and position it to somewhere, to where you like. I think this is good. Try to rotate it in order to have it not hanging in the air, somewhere there. So you can see that it also shows up in the background because it's behind these things. So you want to be careful if it's showing too much, in order to choose like a percentage that is not going to make it obvious. So obviously if we brought in a man, I used this one here, we can also grab him and check transparency such that he is a see-through guy, and we need to resize him obviously such that from the legs to the top is a height that can enter the house. I don't need to move him in front, I need to just move him somewhere like there. And you can see that the fringing is too much. That's why I prefer using Archicad silhouettes, which you can find in the object tool, and then you go to man. You can just type in man literally and you have it. So previously I used this one, so for this video we can use maybe this guy right here and just place him in. Obviously that man is supposed to be, when we go to the settings by Ctrl T, is supposed to be seeing the front, which is kind of cool. Let's rotate him by Ctrl E and place him up here. So the thing that would push a bit of realism in this area is I decided to add a layer on top of the background layer, which is a fill basically. So if I select this fill and take it away, you can see this is the actual sky that we have, but if I take it all the way through, it's just a fill, which is a 50% fill of color, which is this one right here, this 179 pen. So as well, you can choose a fill that you like. For example, if I go to document and select a fill and decide to give it a 50% of maybe we chose that, and then in the background make sure you make this pen a see-through, or this phi, was that phi? Yeah, I think it is a see-through. So when we draw it on top of our background, you can see that it grays out. It's like what you do in Photoshop by reducing the opacity. It sort of sends this background to the background basically. You can see even this man is sent to the background, which is kind of nice to give the depth between this guy here and the guy who is behind there. So you can play with that if you so wish, and I can even extend it to include part of this vegetation which I overlapped. Well, that's what you need to do. And the fun part is that if we got another guy and we wanted him to show through this glass here, let me do for you this one guy. Go to object and bring in a guy here who is standing at the balcony. Like who? Yeah, like this guy here who I used. So we will need to make him show in the front like you saw before, and we place him about here. Of course, we need to rotate with Ctrl E in order to place him somewhere there. and obviously it's on top of glass, and we need to play with Archicad layers, which we cannot control like physically, but you need to keep putting things behind or in front. For example, if we send him, let's say display, right click, so select him, right click, and display order, send backward. So select the guy, right click, display order, send backward. You can see that now we are starting to see the lines. And if we say display order, send backward again, you can see he goes to the back, but we are losing him right here. So let's bring him back a bit. Let's bring forward one more time. But all we have to do is now to send these door lines behind him, right click, display order, send backward, and now we have something that's decent, but also the railing is supposed to be on top of him. So let's with the grouping unchecked, let's just select these elements for the railing and right click, display order, bring forward, such that they are on top of the guy. And look at that effect. Isn't that cool? So cool, so cool. So we can also bring in some birds to fly in the air. Well, obviously we need to uncheck transparency, and then we Ctrl K to resize and size it down. Like I told you before, I don't like the way PNGs are treated. You can see the fringing on the artwork, so that's why I sort of hid it on a cloud such that it's not evident and obvious. But this is pretty cool. And one more thing that we did was for the water texture, which essentially is, if I go to this fill right here, just on top of that thing, which is also having a 50% of this color here with this pen, which is 106, and also having a background open, a transparent background on this background pen. And then I used a sketchy pen for the outline, the sketchy pen. So for this texture here, you need to be a little bit careful because you have 25% fill, which is the shadow on top of the actual texture that you want to import in. So be sure to holding down shift, you can see that that's the 25% fill, but tap tab with the shift still selected, and then you can see that airspace. Select that, and obviously you have to select the other two. Just make sure it is the airspace material that is selected, and then change to the mosaic tile that you have, and you can have this nice cool effect because there is a 25% fill. If I delete it, you can see that right now there's no shadow on top, but if I undo that, you can see that there's a shadow on top of that fill. And now what I did for this water effect is to add this other layer. So let's create it. So all you have to do is go to the document and then grab a fill. Right now it's 50%, which is good for us, and it's that one which can work. And background is at transparent, and then we begin to draw just on top of this. Let's use that polygonal to draw, and it's drawn in. Of course, it's now underneath, so you need to select it and right click, display order, bring to front in order for it to be on top. And I do like how it looks like. So you can override line which is on top and choose another type. Like I told you, I used the sketch, the sketch, and obviously it's showing up here, which we don't want. So I think I did add another. You can bring this one to front such that it is this one that's being seen as opposed to that. Of course, the sketch that you add should also rhyme with the water, maybe a blue something. looks believable. But you can see that with this transparency turned on, we can appreciate the texture of the water feature or the pool, something that is underneath. So that's all you need to know actually in order to come up with this beautiful elevation. And I think I am glad that Archicad can actually do this, but of course we have a few shortcomings, like the fringing, as I said, like some of the textures. For example, if you selected this accidentally and put in stone cladding, you can see that now it doesn't make sense. But we need to be aware of the layers that are present. And of course, for things which are not flat in elevation, we will have issues. For example, if we chose stucco gray for this area here, now that texture doesn't make much sense, because it's flat, and that's not good. So the texture sort of has to follow the terrain, which you can do in Photoshop and the video which we have done, but here no, not really. So thanks for watching, and smash like if you got some value out of this video, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you next time. Bye.